Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport? It is Izubee, Charles, and good morning to you all. It is April 20th, 2023, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us on this episode of Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Matt Shodell and Stephen Wagner as we break down the Hurricanes news of the day. First off, gentlemen, let's jump right into it. Another commitment last night coming by way of 2024 three-star safety Isaiah Thomas, originally from Toronto, Canada, played his ball at Clearwater now. Seventh guy in the 2024 class. Miami picks up, I believe, the third commitment or fourth commitment in the fourth straight day. Matt, you spoke with this head coach at Clearwater Academy who compared him to a first-round talent. I just want you to kind of break down that conversation and what makes him so confident that Isaiah Thomas is that good of a player.
Well, as you know, Izubee, I don't respond to questions directly. So I'm going to start with this. Everybody always says, oh, he's a dog. He's a dog. You got to have that dog in you, right? So last night after Isaiah Thomas announced his commitment, which we knew was coming for a long time before that, I went to the dog park near my house, and I was looking at the dogs. I don't have a dog. I enjoy watching the dogs, you know, sort of calms you down. And some guy comes up to me with his weird animal. I don't know what he had. It was one of those, you know, one of those bulldogs, I guess. And it had like his teeth sticking out. And, you know, from what I understand, like bulldogs were bred, I think by the British maybe, but they were bred to have really flat faces, but that really inhibited their breathing. That's why they're like constantly, that's why they breathe like that. But anyway, this dude comes up to me and he's like, are you looking at the dogs from afar? Like, that's what he said to me. Like he's, you know, from afar. He actually used that term like he was Shakespeare or something. But anyway, so look, I mean, you know, after I processed that and I actually barked at him. I went, arf, arf, and I walked away because I felt he was going to call the cops. But I sort of feel like that's Isaiah Thomas, right? He's from Canada, so he's from afar. He still hasn't really come into his own here on the national recruiting scene because he just hasn't been around. He hasn't been in the dog pound, in the dog park, in the whatever you want to call it. You know, he just hasn't been there with the other dogs. He only arrived in July. Didn't have a single offer from a major program until December, and that was Rutgers. I don't know if you even call Rutgers a major program, depending what year it is. You know, but the more you stare at his film and you talk with his coaches, the more you feel like he's actually going to be in the dog park and be a dog. And you incorrectly said I spoke to his coach because I didn't speak to his coach. I spoke to his coaches because his head coach, one of the things the head coach said that really struck me was that their defensive coordinator, this guy, Rich Stubler, who has coached at the college level and on the CFL. He's been coaching for over 50 years. He was the Oregon defensive coordinator. If you were born before 2000, you might remember his name. He was in the CFL. You know, he coached Toronto Argonauts, the British Columbia Lions, a bunch of teams. So this guy knows what he's doing, basically. Okay. So the head coach says to me that 2 days after Isaiah arrived, they didn't know. You know, they knew he was supposed to be decent. They didn't know if he'd be any good or not. You know, he's from Canada. Stubler told the head coach, this kid's a national recruit. He can play anywhere in the country. That's what the head coach told me. So, you know, I talked to the head coach some more, obviously, for the story, which is on the site. It was on the site last night. And then I figured I'd get Rich Stubler on the phone, you know. So I talked to the Stub, as I call him. And the Stub told me that, you know, what stood out to him right away was that there's very few players that he sees that just understand innately the position and the route concepts. And they use him at basically safety, but in an outside linebacker system too, because it's a 3-3-5. So they're putting him in the box a lot. They're blitzing him a lot, you know, similar to probably what I imagine Lance Guidry wants him to do. But anyway, I don't want to talk forever. So essentially, this was his quote. He said, he's a kid. This is the Stub. He said, he's a kid that if I had him in the CFL the last couple of years, I'd have started him. That's what the Stub told me. That's what Rich Stubler, this guy who's coached for 50 years, said to me. And so I said to the Stub, I said, so your CFL teams were awful? Because who starts a high school junior on their CFL team? Nobody. I didn't say that to him. It did cross my mind to perhaps it was a weird thing to say and to maybe push him on it. I did not because it seemed a little absurd. But I mean, he is so high on Isaiah Thomas. He's so high on him. And so is the head coach, which I like to hear. You know, it's one thing when a high school head coach tells you something. It's another thing when a guy who's coached in college, who's dealt with the media before, who's coached in the CFL, who's been a professional coach, when he tells you things, I honestly take that a little bit differently because they sort of don't like to sugarcoat things. They like to keep it real because that's just how they do it. And so I was very encouraged. So I really think that, some of these prospects who are 2 stars or no stars or 3 stars, I don't get excited about. This is a 3-star I'm actually excited about. Wow. Shodell out.
Not excited about something. It's a new
day. You can't tell from my excited face. Look, that's my excited face. See?
Now we're going to go from the stub to the stash. Mr. Steven Wagner, you broke down his film. What do you see from Isaiah Thomas? What pops about the safety from Toronto, Canada?
Yeah, you see a lot of stuff that honestly you just kind of expect to see in a college safety. He's long, he's lanky, he has the ability to be physical. Like Matt said, the way that they use him, he's kind of expected to be able to contribute to the run defense as well. Be able to pitch in there, and that's something that he's definitely able to do. Something that I really felt like he had a really good understanding of was kind of the way to fit into the run defense in terms of his gap responsibilities. I thought he did a really, really good job, or I should say does a really, really good job of understanding where he needs to be, what his gap responsibilities are, which, for a lot of high school safeties who frankly aren't really expected to contribute in the run game, because at a lot of high schools, it's kind of thought, run defense, that should be left up to linemen and linebackers. The safeties should be the absolute last resort. Well, he's got a pretty good understanding of where he needs to fit in. I think he blitzes very well off the edge. Sometimes he'd be used in kind of like a nickel type of a role, which I should say, or I'm saying it's a nickel type of a role. I think like their term for it is star backer or something like that, but it would basically be a nickel at the Power 5 level. I think he could potentially play that really well. I also think he would just make a good traditional strong safety, kind of depending on where they want to see him at. He's 6'2", 180 pounds. So hopefully you'd probably like to see him gain a little bit of weight, but his length is really, really good. I think he anticipates things really, really well in situational football, like 3rd and goal, 4th and goal, 3rd and 4th down, short yardage situations. He has a good understanding of what route concepts are going to be run depending on what the down and distance is. He knows what he should be expecting. And I think some of that is football IQ. And I think some of that is just plain film study. I think I think a good portion of that is him just simply sitting down and watching game tape and understanding, okay, this is what these guys like to run in this down and distance. I think that there's a lot to like about him. I think there's probably a pretty good upside there. And I think that his stock has risen really, really quickly for a reason. This is a guy who also had offers from Oklahoma and Penn State and Florida State, and he ended up coming to Miami. And like Matt said, this has all come in just the last couple of months. Before this, Rutgers was on him. No offense to the Scarlet Knights, because that's the birthplace of college football, but I don't think Rutgers has won a national championship since they beat Princeton after they discovered or created college football. I don't know what you want to call it. So yeah, I do think that there's a pretty fair amount to like about him. I think kind of the bigger question is going to be, where do they kind of see him being used? Because I think he's really versatile, and I think that he could be used in a lot of different ways. Like I said, I think he would probably make a pretty good nickel back if you want to put him there. I think he'd make a good strong safety if you want to put him there. I think you could probably train him to play free safety as well. So I think the biggest question is just, where do they kind of see him fitting in?
And what I like about the most about Isaiah Thomas is when I asked him, this day and age when a guy commits, we've heard it all before. I'm 100% committed, but, I'm still checking out other programs. I'm going on this visit there. Isaiah was like, nope, I'm not going anywhere else. The next place I'll be going is Miami in January. So a guy that is ready to become a Cane, which is something you always love to hear. And with him, I asked him, what player would he compare himself to the most? And he said Isaiah Simmons the kind of linebacker safety that plays for the Arizona Cardinals, former Clemson Tiger. I thought that was a really good comparison. And Steven just said all the same things that I was going to say too about him. A guy that you can move safety, in the box, out the box coverage, understands the game of football. So really, really like this pickup for Isaiah Thomas. It seems like from the fans' reactions last night, they like this pickup too. So happy to have the Canes fans at home watching happy. So let's just keep the ball rolling with Mario Cristobal and the Canes and see who else we can let. Hopefully a big time prospect. And what else do we have on this today? So Matt, I'm kind of lost. You got to help me out here.
What else do we have? Well, I will tell you something that we're going to have. We were going to run it initially, like right now at 5, 6 in the morning, whatever. But we're going to hold it a little bit because we obviously have the commitment stories. But I will tease it slightly. I was able to procure an actual updated roster with actual numbers on it that are no longer from last year. Numbers that are from this year, like weights that have changed, that are not the same. So I'm going to do an analysis. I actually wrote it last night, but it'll be up shortly. We just didn't want to overwhelm people because people are still looking at the stories on the commitment that was from last night. But I will tell you, I'll give you a little teaser here. 9 players had double-digit weight gains, and 7 players have lost 9 or more pounds. And believe it or not, I mean, the official sites still don't have updated heights and weights. I mean, it's super weird, but I will tell you, I'll give you this, okay? Jaleel Skinner has gained 20 pounds. He still looks skinny, but the updated roster I saw, he's up to 230 pounds, okay? I'm trying to think of some other, let me think. Wesley Bassane has gained 10 pounds. There's guys that lost weight. Leonard Taylor lost 9 pounds from last year's listed weight. James Williams has lost 9 pounds. So I think that could help him be even faster, a little more explosive. Jaden Harris, interestingly lost 15 pounds down to 180. I think the idea being that, if he's going to be at nickel and not outside corner, that he needs to be a little quicker. So I like that. Ahmad Moten lost 25 pounds, so he'll be a little quicker. He's at 300. Zion Nelson, this is interesting because Zion has had a lot of problems. When I've been told, he put on so much weight so quickly. I know you guys weren't here when he got here, but he gained, I want to say, 60 pounds in his first year and a half, 2 years, something like that here. He lost 9 pounds from last year. And you might say, oh, it's because of he's been injured, he hasn't been able to work out, whatever. But he needed to lose weight because when you gain that much weight on a frame that's his, it puts a lot of pressure on your joints, and his knees are consistently now having all sorts of problems. And I think maybe a solution might be if he gets down a little bit weight-wise. He's got all the athleticism in the world, so I sort of like that. But anyway, we're gonna go. I'm gonna go through it all. So I think we have it slotted to go up at like 9:15 a.m. So if you guys want to like check back, in 3 or 4 hours or whatever time it is, in whatever time you're watching this, I don't know when people watch this show. I don't think anybody watches it anyway, but if you do watch, you can certainly, I think you'll be interested in that story. And then also this morning, we're going to have also around 9 a.m. because we pushed stuff back, the keys that we learned from the 15 practices. And by we, I mean me, because I wrote the story. Okay.
Star of the show.
And what?
I said, you're the star of the show now.
I'm the star of the show. And then I also did an item, not we. I did an item. And Steven, you can talk about your stories in a minute, okay? And Izubee yours. But I also did a story on the Miami Hurricanes national title odds this year because Steven keeps on texting me, the odds are out. What's going on with the odds? Are we doing a story on the odds? To make Steven Wagner happy, I finally did a story on the odds. You can stop texting me, Steven. The story's been done, okay? And Steven, you'll be happy to hear that Miami is at plus 20,000 to win it all, as Jim Carrey would say. So you're saying there's a chance?
Those are great odds. Put $1 on Miami to win the whole thing. I love those odds.
Yeah.
Give me $1 give me $1 on Miami to win the national championship.
Why
$1? $20,000 to 1 odds on anything.
First of all, what are you going to do with $20,000? You can't even do it. That's like 3 meals at Dirty French. What are you going to do with 20 grand?
I can finally afford my rent.
No, but honestly, I'm not one to look at those odds preseason. I feel like if we take a look back at TCU's odds last year, they're probably around the same things as Miami. But that was interesting to see, and how you did the breakdown of all Miami's teams they're playing, odds and things like that. But
since you do mention that, there's not that many teams with better odds than Miami has. So hypothetically, if fans out there want to play a weird game, and I like weird games, and let's call this weird game, Miami versus the odds, because last year against the odds, and I haven't read this yet, but I will read it at some point. Steven and Izubee, I want you both to guess. Miami played 12 games last year. Miami was 5-7. What was Miami's record against the spread last year?
Ooh. Oh, hang on.
There's no answer. You don't know. It's not like you can remember it. Nobody's ever written it. I'm going to tell you right now.
I can guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you to guess. It's not something you think about. It's like, what do you want?
I'm pretty freaking good at guessing, Matt. If you'll just give me a second.
I already gave you a second. You're like one of these people, oh, what are you getting from the menu for dinner? And you got to sit there for 20 minutes while you decide 50 different things and ask the waiter or waitress like 50 different questions.
And that's the guy who arbitrarily decides, everyone shut up. I know what we're ordering.
You know what, Wags? Now I'm not telling you the answers. Izubee, I'll whisper it. Actually, Izubee, take him off the screen and then I'll tell you the answer.
All right, Steven.
All right. So, I'm just kidding. Bring Steven back. That was rude.
Welcome back, Steven.
That was your minute.
Oh, you almost caught me. You almost caught me doing a very dirty gesture.
All right. So what's the win-loss record against the spread?
3-9.
Okay. And what about you, Izubee?
I was going 4-8. 4-8.
They were 2-10 against the spread. 2-10. And one of those was the win against Virginia, and the other one I think was maybe the second game of the year. Who they beat? I want to say they beat Southern Miss.
Southern Miss,
think, right?
Frank
was
homecoming.
Those are the two big wins for Miami against the spread. Anyway, so this year, if you want to play this game of Miami against the spread, right? So Miami's plus 20,000. The teams that are better than plus 20,000, in other words, teams that the perception is they have a better team than Miami right now. If you want to play wins, losses like that, right? The only losses, just based on that alone, would be Texas A&M, which is plus 6,000. North Carolina's plus 10,000. Clemson's plus 2,000. Florida State's plus 1,800. And that's it, because Louisville's tied with them at plus 20,000. So Miami is going 8-4, which is what I said, 8 or 9 wins. 8 or 9 wins. Piece of cake. Just ask the people that make these ridiculous lines way too early when they don't know what the heck's going to even happen in the portal now for the next 10 days to whatever amount of time. So,
Matt, the goal here is not for Vegas to be right. The goal here is for Vegas to start making money and pulling all these addict bettors in, getting addicts like myself to say, yeah, take Miami at plus 20,000, put $1 on them and see what happens. That's the goal here.
Okay, well, Steve, just so you know, if you're only betting $1, you're probably not an addict. Just if you want to have peace of mind, okay?
I think it's the frequency more than anything. It's just I don't know. It's eating away at me. It's spring. All I have right now is some mediocre college baseball and basketball games that are starting to get a little bit interesting, and MLB that doesn't mean anything for another 6 months.
That's funny. Well, while you folks at home consider betting your life savings on the Hurricanes 2024 odds, we're going to jump right back to some recruiting. Who's excited? Let's get a hoorah. Woo. So, Steven, you had the chance to talk to one of the top 2025 quarterbacks in his class, Antoine Hill out of Warren Robins, Georgia, that just picked up a Miami offer. After that conversation with him, just where's his head at? What's he thinking about the Hurricanes?
The first thing that I thought whenever you said I had a chance to catch up with someone, the first thing that went through my head is who did I catch up with? I had no idea I caught up with anyone. But Antoine Hill, top 100 quarterback top 100 prospect in the 2025 class. Absolutely massive dude. He's 6'4" and 205 pounds. And right now he's a high school sophomore. So put that in perspective. He's going into his junior year. He already has offers from Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, USC. So it's already been pretty clearly established that he is going to be one of the top quarterback prospects in his class. Cannon of an arm, moves pretty well. Shannon Dawson wanted to pull the trigger really quick. I had a chance to talk to Antoine. He told me that Dawson told him that he saw 4 clips of his game film and immediately offered him. And judging by his offer list, that sounds like it's probably kind of been the case with everyone. considering the programs that he already has offers from. Kind of hard for him to gauge his interest already. He knows that he wants to get down to Miami at some point. He thinks a visit would probably kind of help facilitate his interest and kind of get a better feel for where he's at this early in his recruitment. He thinks that he might commit maybe sometime in the spring of next year. He said he hasn't even given any thought to, what his top list of schools might be or where his head's going to be at as far as all of that stuff goes, because it's so early. But this is definitely a guy where Miami's going to have to get him on campus if they want to have any sort of a shot with him. So for whatever that's worth, that's kind of where he's at there. And whenever I talked to him, it honestly kind of felt like Miami was kind of a program that was, maybe kind of in the back of his mind a little bit, considering that he's already had interest from Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Florida and all of these SEC programs. And, so for Miami to kind of be appearing on the scene a little bit late with an offer, relatively speaking, keep in mind, we're talking about offering a 2025 guy here, but a guy that all of these other SEC programs and all of these, programs that have competed for championships in the CFP era have already offered him. It does feel like Miami's, got quite a solid hill to climb, even though it's this early in his recruitment. But you never know. It's early. Like I keep saying, he's a 2025 guy. So we've got 2 full years for Miami to recruit him, and we'll see what ends up happening in that cycle.
Yeah, I like what you did there, Steven. Miami has a solid hill to climb. Antoine Hill. I like the wordplay.
I didn't even know I said that. I don't know half the stuff that comes out of my mouth. You ever see that Michael Scott clip? Sometimes, I just start a sentence and I hope I find it along the way. I feel like that's most of the sentences that come out of my mouth.
That's hilarious. Well, everyone at home, make sure to check out that update with Antoine Hill and all the other recruiting updates that we have on the site, including 2024 defensive lineman Eddie Turk out of LaGrange, Illinois, who Miami is recruiting as an offensive lineman, as Mario Cristobal and Alex Merrill believe he could be a very, very good offensive lineman for the Miami Hurricanes. And as always, stay tuned for any other news that might come up on the site. That's all that we have for this episode of Good Morning CaneSport. For Matt Shodell and Stephen Wagner, I am Izubee Charles, and thank you for starting your day off with these 3 beautiful faces. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye now.